Donald Trump stood trial over the course of 6 weeks in New York City, facing 34 felony charges related to a 2016 hush money payment made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Trump has pleaded not guilty to falsifying business records to conceal the alleged scheme and has denied any wrongdoing. The fate of the former president will soon be in the hands of a jury who will decide if the prosecution has proven their case. And with all eyes on the Manhattan criminal courthouse, there are legal terms and processes to unpack before Judgment Day.
After closing arguments, the judge will read instructions to the jury, also known as a jury charge. It's when instructions and explanations are given to the jurors about the applicable law they need to follow in their deliberations. For example, these instructions will explain to the jury the elements of the crimes at issue. Here, the falsification of business records, that the government must prove to find Trump guilty. As part of the charge, the court will also define for the jury what reasonable doubt is. In our criminal justice system, the judge decides issues of law. The jury's job is to decide the facts and determine whether the facts, as applied to the law they've been instructed on by the judge, show that the defendant is guilty. Reasonable doubt is the burden of proof required in a criminal case, and in order to convict, the jury must unanimously find, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the government has proven its case, that the defendant is guilty of the crimes charged. Courts typically define proof beyond a reasonable doubt as proof that leaves you firmly convinced the defendant is guilty. It's not required that the government prove guilt beyond all possible doubt. There's also the presumption of innocence. From the moment a person is charged with a crime, up until the verdict, the defendant is always presumed innocent. An acquittal is not a finding of innocence, because again, there is a presumption of innocence for the defendant. It simply means that the jury has unanimously found that prosecutors have not proven their case on a particular count against the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. Remember, the burden is always on the government to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Conversely, a guilty verdict is when the jury has unanimously found that the defendant is guilty. As for a mistrial, it can arise for various reasons, but in the context of jury deliberations and the rendering of verdicts, it typically happens when a jury is deadlocked, meaning 12 jurors cannot agree unanimously either to acquit or convict. When a jury is deadlocked on a count, a mistrial is declared on that count. A mistrial means that there's no finding one way or another about guilt. After a mistrial, the government can do a do-over, meaning the government can retry the case before another jury on any count where a mistrial was declared. If Trump is convicted on any one of the counts, then I'd expect the following to happen. First, his defense would likely ask to poll the jury, meaning each juror will be asked to confirm their vote on the record. When a verdict is first read, it is either read by the foreperson, the judge, or the deputy. But after it is read, a party can ask for the jury to be polled, meaning each juror has to confirm their vote. Next, I expect Trump's defense would then move to vacate the verdict on the basis that there was insufficient evidence. This is highly unlikely to succeed. And third, the matter would be set for sentencing, likely within the next 3 to 6 months. Trump faces up to 4 years on each count of conviction. In all likelihood, a sentence for these types of charges would be one that does not involve imprisonment. After sentencing, Trump would then likely appeal his conviction. Importantly, he cannot appeal until he has been sentenced, because that is when the judgment is final and ripe for appeal. The appeal would be made to the Intermediate Appellate Court in New York County. If he loses in the Intermediate Appellate Court, he could then appeal to the highest court in New York State, which is called the Court of Appeals. The whole process would likely take at least from 6 to 18 months from the date of the sentence, but the appeals court could hear the appeal on an expedited basis.